Hey, Gunners, welcome back to Gooner Pavilion. And this is another episode, right? And I wanted to jump in, just share my thoughts. I was at the Emirates yesterday, so I'm recording this one day after being at the Emirates, and it was a good day. It was a good experience. I went with my daughter, who was going to the stadium for the very first time, her first Arsenal game. And she was absolutely excited about it. She was so thrilled to be at the stadium. And after the game, we went down to the Armory and I got her an Arsenal jersey as well. So she was well excited about that. And I'll be taking my second daughter to the game on Saturday. So that will be good. And so if you see me, say hello as well. But I know that's not why you clicked on this video today. And listen, I know there's a lot of panic, right? And if you listen to a lot of people talking about the preseason game, the result was not exactly what we wanted in that game, but there is so much to unpack. And I can't wait to dive into all of this with all of you. Okay, guys, let's start with something that really stood out to me during that game, and that is chemistry. It's clear the team is still finding his rhythm, especially with our new striker, Gyökeres. He started the game exactly what we wanted. First game back at the Emirates, we wanted to see the new shining striker start. And if you watch that game, I mean, if you just think about the fact that we were down for most of the game, he didn't seem like he was doing much. Um, but I noticed a few times in the game about Merino and Gyökeres going to the same space for the ball. And fair play, Merino played as a striker last season. And so for me, that's just chemistry. That's just rhythm. That's just understanding players, understanding each other, talking to each other. There was this free kick that Waneri had, I think it was the 20th minute or so, and both Gyökeres and Merino went for the ball. Neither of them got it. And it was just looked a little bit clumsy, a little bit of a mess. A few times when the balls that were cross flashed in, everyone was like throwing legs. It just looked like a little bit comical in the box. But for me, I take that there were people in the box, and that's one thing that we talked about in the past. That a lot of times Arsenal do all the beautiful play and then get the ball into the box and there's no one there. So I'd rather the players be there because the more times you do it, the more opportunities to have to actually score a goal. So listen, those two players are incredibly talented, and I have no doubt that they will click and we will see some magic on the pitch. So I think it's very early days. Mikel Arteta talked about the fact that Gyökeres really trained with the team for just 1 week. So for a guy that didn't have any preseason at all because of the contract and all of that, so coming into Arsenal, let's give him some time, to do that. And so that brings me to the next thing that I saw in the game. And I took some notes, just to sort of keep me going along. So the other thing that I saw in the game is speaking about chemistry is our midfield, guys. And this is preseason. We've got a brand new partnership in that center, and none of the players that are going to play, whether it's Zubimendi or Christian Nørgaard, playing in that six has really played, together for Arsenal before. And I think that's an important thing. And it's fascinating to see how this impacts, our play. Most coaches will tell you, right, the understanding about players' movement, how each player understands the other's movement and roles. And we saw that in one of the goals that Villarreal scored. I think it was that counter attack goal that Dowman scored. It was a ball straight through the middle of the midfield, and Dowman was aware, and of course he tucked that ball in. So I think that understanding is still ongoing. The shame is that, this is the penultimate game, to the Premier League. And I'll bring another analogy, as you all know, I love the NFL as well. And, the Patriots, one of the most celebrated team in recent history. For those of you that watch American football, you probably heard about Tom Brady. You've never, maybe you don't really follow the sport, but you must have heard about the New England Patriots and Tom Brady. And they traditionally used to start a little bit sluggish. But hey, look at what they've done. They've won, 7 Super Bowls. Tom Brady has won 7 Super Bowls. I know one of them he won with Tampa. But what I'm saying is that, sometimes, starting with blistering pace is great. But I think this season we might have to adjust the way that we start, just by what I saw in that penultimate game. Of course, there's one more preseason game to go on Saturday, so I will be looking out for a few more things as well. But I think, it's something that, is important, that balance in the midfield. There's a new pairing there. So I think, we need to work out and see how that impacts. But on the bright side, guys, and I know that, you're all thinking, okay, it seems like the same old tactics. I was talking to, some of our friends in the group chat, and, one of them was saying, well, didn't really learn anything from the team. It just seemed like we haven't really improved as well. I do think that our defense looked pretty solid. And I know you might say, well, hold on a second. We considered 3 goals in that game. But I look at the players that we have in that defensive unit. We've got Saliba, we've got Kivio, who have really come up leaps and bounds, from last season. So we've got Kivio, we've got Saliba, we've got Gabriel, and boy, what about Mosquera? I think everyone saw what he's going to bring to the Emirates this season. And I think, for once, I feel very settled about that center back partnership right there. And I think Mosquera, on that right hand side can come in and do a job. Dude was electric. He was it's intercepting balls. He was making, adjusting, when the ball was coming in the air and things like that. So, hey, he looked very good, looked promising. Let's see how he actually looks against Premier League opposition. But I also noticed that Kivio is taking the long throws now. That was something that Partey used to do when he was on the pitch. It seems that Kivio has taken up that responsibility to be taking up the long throws. And speaking of responsibilities, guys, I also noticed a couple of things about Waneri, So I think it was we're going through the off season, we were talking about, where is Waneri's position, in the likes of, when we signed Noni Madueke and people thinking, okay, is he gonna block, his progression? And it felt like Waneri in that first half was doing the Odegaard role. He was playing in the way that Odegaard would like to play, drifting out to that right hand side to anchor with Saka. Wasn't a lot of 1-2s with Saka, but a couple of times he did a couple of things, that looked very promising and made you feel like I think he's here to stay. And it feels like Mikel has said, hey, listen, you've signed a new contract, but we're going to give you more responsibilities. And that is the balance, guys. It's talent, but it's also hard work. And the hard work comes with increased responsibilities. If you're going to be, at the same level as the first team guys, and you want to command the same kind of, attention, minutes on the pitch and things like that, you need to be doing a little bit more, not just coming in and just, doing your own thing, and all of that. So I really like that because he was taking the free kicks as well. So that's added responsibility, for him. That would only just help his development because you got to have the talent, but you've got to have the hard work as well and do the things that are needed. So I thought that was interesting, for us to see there as well. And boy, oh boy, I think Lewis Kelly, I think he looks great. He looked great, especially in that first half. Started to wane a little bit, as we got into the second half. But first half, he was great. Got burned for pace. I know Pepe really was coming off for one. I think he was potentially the man of the match, in that game yesterday. But that can happen when a former player comes back to his old stomping ground. So much respect, to him. He scored his goal, fair play to him. But Miles Lewis Kelly, I think, there were a lot of times that he took the ball and he drove the ball. And that's a lot of things that I like about him. And I hope that that never is taken out of him. And I know that people will talk about, the Tottenham goal in the preseason. He was robbed of the ball and score. And guys, you've got to look at proportions with this thing, right? So if he's successful 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times, 7 out of 10 times, that's still very decent. The 3 out of 10 times someone might nick the ball, I think you can work around with that, right? Because ultimately, I think it's all about building the confidence, building the experience of Marlowe Skelly. And hey, I think he's the left center back. I don't think, left back. I don't think there's anyone that's going to take that position from him right now. Um, Great that we saw Julian Timber come back in, and of course, he does that left-hand side with Miles Lewis Kelly. But on the show that we've got, so far, I would still keep Zinchenko, right? I know he might not be happy, to not play a lot of the games, and that might be the case, especially if Miles Lewis Kelly is fit and Julian Timber is fit as well. But I think sometimes Zinchenko comes in and gives you just something different, right? So I mean, there's things like that to work out. And of course, I saved the best for the last, right, guys? Max Dowman. Unbelievable, guys. I did a video about Max Dowman the other day, so check out the video in the channel as well. And boy, oh boy, guys, this guy is everything as advertised, and he's 15 years old. And I know that everyone wants to calm things down, but when you actually see him live, the positions he's taking, receiving, waiting to receive the ball, calling for the ball, as well, it just gives you a level of maturity that is just incredible to see. And you saw his teammates respond to him. They were looking for him to pass the ball. I mean, poor Noni Madueke came into the game, and rarely, every time, there were times that Madueke was open. I was watching in the stands. He was open and he couldn't receive the ball. They would turn around and face, and they want to go towards the right. And that's because of what he's been capable of doing. And he created that penalty. So, hey, I don't know how Mikel Arteta is going to manage this, but this is definitely a problem that he needs to work out. But a good problem, I would say. It's a good problem. It's a good problem. So, guys, listen. I think my thoughts, about that game, it's really that, hey, there is lots of stuff there, for us, and the other one thing, that I wanted to touch about, and that's really about the preseason as well. And I wonder whether, the chemistry thing has to do with the fact that we went over to Asia for the preseason tour. And I know as successful that is, and I don't want to knock it, because it increases the brand of Arsenal, gets us more fans. But you've got to say, whether there is something there in terms of how it impacts preparation. If the guys are spending more time doing the commercial stuff, the promoting stuff, how much time do they really have to, really, really prepare in the season, prepare for the tactics, and all of that. So guys, I think Mikel Arteta would have to adjust. I think, as a coach, and this beginning of the season, and boy, are we dropping ourselves right into it in the beginning of the season, because we've got some very tough games. No tougher than going to Old Trafford, where we traditionally not been too good. But I will build from the back, because I think there's gonna still be some adjustments, happening, at the top of the pitch. But build from the back. That is our base. That is our identity, and from there, if we don't concede goals, we will always get a chance to put some in. So, guys, that was my take, on the preseason game. But I want to know what yours is. And I want to know what you think about the game. Put it in the comments, build it up in the comments, guys. Let me hear your take. Let me hear the things that you noticed. Did you notice the same things that I noticed as well? And did you notice something different? Let's have a conversation. Put that in the comments as well. And hey, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, the channel as well, and hit that notification bell, just so that when I post new content, you can also see that as well. Like I said, I will be going to the Emirates on Saturday to watch the Athletic City game, and I'll obviously post my reaction, from the game as well. But also next week, we're building up to the big game, Manchester United versus Arsenal. So I'll probably have some couple of friends, with me on the channel to look ahead to that game, as well. So really, really excited about that, guys. But until the next one, guys, take care of yourself.